Stella NAM with Real Talk, and welcome to another edition of the program Tango University. As always, we have a very interesting topic to talk about, and to discuss this with me is one who you already know as one of the contributors in this program before, in the person of Mr. Austin Ian, the media entrepreneur. A new person starting with us this season is Miriam Wadiko, a Swedish-born, now Nigerianized by getting married to Mr. Harrison Wadiko. She's a linguist, and we're glad to have her here with us today on this edition of the program Tango University. Miriam, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Austin Ian, you're welcome again.
It's good to be here.
All right. We all know that, especially in this African society, that the topic of today is a very sensitive one, in the sense that we're going to talk about adoption. Adoption is a very sensitive topic, like I have said, but someone needs to talk about it. The African society frowns to the issue. Many people, I wouldn't want to say the African society, a lot of people in the African setting frown to the topic of adoption. Adoption means a lot to different people in different climes. But we're taking it from this point of the African setting where a lot of people frown about it, while another group would I say, not really bothered about who gets where a child comes from, as long as it's a child. To discuss this, let's start with Austin Ian. What are your thoughts?
All right. I will start with a very personal anecdote, if you like. My mother had just two of us, myself and my elder brother. So for her, adoption was always an option. Because she grew up at a time when if you had just one child or two or three, you haven't started. You know, it was fashionable to have many children. So she was always under that kind of pressure. And so adoption was an option for her, except that she had certain specs as to who to adopt. She wanted to adopt a child from a particular background. So she was always on the lookout for that. But I understand that she's unique in that sense. It was not the common thing to want to adopt a child. It was far more gratifying to have a child, biological child of your own. So, but from the effort she made to get to adopt a child, to add to us, I grew up having a very positive attitude towards adoption. I looked forward to having that kind of sibling that was not biological. However, as God would have it, she was able to not adopt in the formal sense. They have other women or children who were in need of mothers, children of mothers who could not cater for them. Okay. It was not the formal adoption where she had to. You know, we have an extended family structure in Africa, so adoption is maybe from the Western point of view. So eventually she was able to adopt, in quotes, all these other children who today still call her mother.
They regard her
as mother. Even some of them are closer to her than the two of us. I call my mom auntie. My brother calls her auntie because of. They thought when we grew up, we thought that was her name.
Because a lot of children around were calling her.
But today, some of those children that were calling her auntie now call her mommy. And we are still the auntie, stuck with auntie. So they are closer to her than we are, because we just keep going and going after everything. So my attitude towards adoption is maybe not the common attitude that a lot of people have in this part of the world.
As in, children must come from my loins.
Yes, but I have a very good attitude towards adoption. It has solved a lot of problems towards a lot of families. that want that child.
Okay, I would like you to hold your thought about that solving problems for families. Let's have your take, Miriam, from another point of view, or are you thinking in the same line as Austin? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think from my family, not necessarily a Swedish general view, but from my family, we've always had the thought of welcoming other children, and the idea that if you have the means to support other children, whether they stay with you or whether you support from afar. So I think adoption is it can be a very positive solution. But on the other hand, we need to see that, from a white person perspective, there is also this maybe market now, where they see children as a way to earn money from African setting, to sell children to Oibo countries and so on, and also within Western world countries.
Okay, can I ask a question? Because you said something about where they make money from getting children from the African. How does that work?
Well, I don't have personal experience, but when we follow social media, we hear of stories where actually children have been adopted to abroad, and when the child grows up, she will start or learn more fluently, maybe English. She will start talking, "Oh, I miss my mommy, and it will shock the adoptive parents that this child was not an orphan. This child was adopted from maybe by telling the parents that your child will go to school, your child will be well taken care of, and without the true consent, the true informed consent of the parent, the child has been abducted."
So it's no longer adoption, but abduction.
It's an adoption from one part. They think that this child is adopted. But and we see more and more stories coming up. Wow. So it's a very sensitive area, I believe. And for me personally, I would have no issue in adopting a child. I would when that day comes, and for now I don't have children of my own after 4 years of marriage, and for some people that would be a problem, but from where I come from, it's not necessarily a problem. If we have children on our own, thank God. If we get adopted, thank God.
Okay, do you know that before we go on, I'd like us to listen to some clips, a clip about the thoughts on adoption, so that you see how someone took it from another angle on
adoption, a different or negative meaning. John Maxwell has 4 kids, and his 4 kids are adopted. So why do we want to stress ourselves and make adoption an issue? I always ask people, even waiting couples, do you want to be correct or do you want to progress? Because you'll be correct that you are waiting, but you will progress if you want to go ahead and adopt a child. When we understand the protocols of Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6, the scripture says, train up a child. Now, because of our own level of unguardedness, we tend to interpret that scriptures like, train up your child. The scriptures never said, train up your child. The Bible said, train up a child. And when we understand the rudiments of parenting, we realize that parenting itself is a call to duty, be it that either a biological child or an adopted child. We are being called and summoned to a duty. So when we stigmatize people that adopt, I think it shows the level of our thinking, because adoption is not an issue. Because when you adopt a child, you've adopted a nation. When you adopt a child, you've given a nation a meaning. One of the reasons why we have nuisance effect and unguardedness within some kids is because there is no proper parental duty in their life.
Welcome back. It's still the program Tango with ST, and I still have in the house with me Austin Eyang and Miriam Wadigo. Miriam, before we went on that break, we were talking about adoption. We're still on the topic of adoption. After listening to that video, what's your take?
Well, he pointed out the very important Bible verse where it says, train up a child. He took the focus off from your child. It's not necessarily a biological child. In terms of calling, being a parent is a calling. Being a mother is a calling. And to be honest, I am a mother already. Without having a biological child, I am a mother. I have influence over so many children around me. It could be, of course, nephews and nieces, but also in the community where I am, where I'm having an impact. So I really appreciate his thoughts.
Yeah. Let's hear from you. Austin.
Yeah, just to corroborate what she just said, we have a saying in our traditional society that it takes a village to train up a child. The efforts of a particular mother, the biological mother, are never enough. And they are never enough to bring up that total human being that can be an asset of value to the community. It takes the entire community. And so, even though it be right to say that there's a stigma attached to adoption, still there is some mitigating factors in the society that make adoption, by whatever name we call it in the African setting, acceptable. A woman that has no children of her own might come across one or two obstacles, social standing, social status. However, if she does, according to the sense of the Bible verse that she just quoted, and takes care of a child, any child, like the mother, eventually those same people that were probably looking at her in a certain light because she didn't have, will be the one to say, look at your child, look at your children, and then that acceptance comes naturally. It all depends on how the woman, who is at the center of this whole thing, sees herself as a mother. Like she said, as a mother. You're already a mother, whether you are the mother of a biological child or not.
Growing up, when we used to have Sunday school service and children, we talk about it, just ask, I can't remember the song. We sing, who is a mother? And they used to highlight things that a mother should do. So from what I got to know as a child, I grew up with this sense of the mother is not just my mother, the one I call mommy, but the neighbor that looks out for me, that's old enough to be my mother, that looks out for me, is also my mother.
Exactly.
I was telling you a story. I was telling you guys a story when we went on that break about still growing up in the old Bendel, later became Edo Delta. There was this family, I never knew she wasn't their mother because I met them when she was already in the house. So they were about 5, 6 thereabouts. I can't remember, but I know there were more than 4. She raised those kids. I think the man lost his wife after having those children, so she couldn't have a child of her own. It was only when she had a fight with someone that the person said, like the insult, just trying to hit her, and she said, after you just wasted your life, don't go and think of how you would manage your life after wasting your life training other people's children. And I was like, wow, Do you know that this woman just sat back? These children beat up that lady. And when I say beat up, they beat her up. The lady just sat back. Because, when you're confident that you have put so much in that these are your children, no one can take them away from you. And those children saw her like their mother. So it was like, an insult and a big slap on them
Yes.
for you to come out in public and say and talk to their mother like that at that point in time. And you know the way the woman sat back, I was like, wow. By the time they finished with that lady, I'm sure in the next life she wouldn't even tell someone who she knows does not have children that kind of.
Exactly.
You understand? Today, you know that lady, the children are, everyone is dragging her.
Exactly.
Like, come to Atlanta, come to, you know, like that. She's so happy. She's even a lot happier than a lot of women that I know who have like 10 children and all of that. I'm not saying those who have so many children are not happy, but I'm just trying to explain how happy she is today. So, you know, people, you know, like I said at the beginning of the program, perhaps maybe I said the African society. You know, when I say the African society, I do not mean everybody in the African society, because looking at you, you're from the African society, but a lot of people. The reason why people will keep having issues with fake pregnancies, DNA issues, the baby factories will keep booming and all of that is because of this level of stigmatization when it comes to this is not really your child.
Exactly.
So, you know, he said one other thing in that video about do you want to be correct
or progress?
Or progress.
Okay, if I may just add, I come from Cross River State, okay, and we in that part of the country we're blessed in the sense that we had a very wonderful and inspiring example in the person of Mary Slessor. You know, Mary Slessor came to this country to preach the gospel. She was 18 years old from Scotland, and she came and she was determined to fight some of the stigmas that were African traditional because of the manner in which we worshipped and the superstitions that we harbored. You know, one of them was childlessness and adoption and all that, what we call adoption now. One also was human sacrifice, the killing of twins. Now, everybody knows her for saving twins and everything.
And since I remember my social studies.
Give me those children. Don't kill them. Bring them to me. But she didn't restrict her intervention on just twins. Any unwanted children, don't abort. Bring them to my home, to me. They are my children. Incidentally, Mary Slessor never had a biological child of her own. In fact, she never married. The story was that there was a backstory about how she went back to Scotland. The man couldn't wait for her. He moved on when she came to Africa. So she came back to Africa to continue with her life, and she never considered. But over time, she became the mother of millions, perhaps. Because today, if you don't go to Calabar, you find generations of Slessors. Some people have adopted her surname as their own. So you have Etem Slessor, Edet Slessor, Ian Slessor. And you begin to wonder, really? And because they are Slessors, they are children, because that's the surname now. They are Slessors down to this generation.
So Slessor is still...
Yes, Slessor is...
to reckon.
Yes, and I was very proud when I went to Calabar 2 years ago, and I saw that they had renovated the statue at Slessor Avenue. Slessor Avenue from University of Calabar to where the stadium I think is now is the Slessor Avenue, and they've changed the statue that was there before. It was not very imposing. It's a huge one now, where she's with these two children. Until date, we call her Ma Slessor. Afia Bongawan, the White Queen of Calabar. And she never had a child of her own. So maybe that's why the stigma, many of us maybe from that part of the country are not particularly laboring under that old stigma. You don't have it. Ma Slessor has provided an example for us. I just needed to say that.
So, you know, it's very interesting where people who are the people who give the woman who is waiting, the woman who is still trying to conceive, the stress of you know, when we talk about infertility now, who are the people who are the stressors Yeah, I think that's the word I want to use. The stressors behind the infertility issue. Who would you blame?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's very individual. It depends on the family. So, but in my case, in our family, I thank God for my husband, I thank God for my mother-in-law, I thank God for my parents. They have never asked questions like what's wrong or, yeah, because often I see a tendency in, let's say, Nigerian community that there will be a lot of pressure on the woman. Like, what is wrong with the woman? She's not giving birth after 1 year of marriage, and then as time goes on. But for me personally, where I've experienced pressure is mainly from maybe pastors or in the Christian church setting, where people will be like always praying for, fruit of the womb, which for me is a welcoming prayer.
I'm praying for you.
Yes, but also you don't know what we are going through. Maybe there is another topic or another prayer or a miracle that God needs to do first. So we need to be open and not just see like the fruit of the womb is the ultimate goal for marriage.
Yes.
I think we need to find our purpose, whether single, whether childless, or finding our purpose in the season we are in, knowing that God is the ultimate one who holds our timing in His hand.
Exactly. Just to add to that, I think apart from
before you add to that, I know some people about this, the pressure, the stressors. When you're talking, I said something like, we're praying for you. That, and when they say things like we're praying for you,
it's a form of pressure.
It's a form of pressure. You understand? When you say things like it's a form of pressure. When you say, and some people come out to like, what are you waiting for?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and she says something like, maybe there's a miracle that you're waiting for first before. People need to realize that marriage is not necessarily, like he said, I don't know if he said it on his program or he said it while we went on the break about companionship first.
Yeah.
Was it something?
Yes.
You really need to give people their space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's from your own angle, and I totally agree with that. Austin?
Yes, and I think another group of stressors that I have maybe identified are other women. They may be within the family or outside it. When you come in, because women, I'm sorry to say this, I'm in the midst of women, so I may say something that might make me be a Daniel in the lion's den. However, there are times when women come into conflict, when they quarrel, because there's this sort of subtle rivalry between women. And when women quarrel, they
very
won't...
subtle,
yes.
No, very subtle.
Very subtle.
Very
Yes,
subtle.
it may not be hostile, but
Yes.
it's there. And then there's this insinuation, no go born your pikin. They no born your pikin. It's a form
They
of
do younger.
They do so younger. Say you understand. No go born your, especially the one that has children. And it's not new. We saw it in the book of Genesis when Abraham was compelled to get another wife, the other lady who mocked Sarah because she now had a child, whereas it was Sarah's idea that Abraham should have a child, and God did not take it kind. And at the end,
she wanted to help God.
Exactly, and she was mocking the very person who said, get this woman so she can have a child. Of course, it was not God's purpose. But that woman forgot that. And she put pressure on Sarah. And at the end, it was Sarah that said, take Sarah away. And all that. So that's subtle. And then there's this prayer that I hear of about against delay. We pray against delay. And there's this pastor I was watching on TV who was talking about how delay may not necessarily be a bad thing. Exactly. Moses went to the mountain to get the commandments from God, and he was delayed. And the people were like, "What was happening?" And they let's move on, and so on and so forth. People were impatient. We don't know what has happened to Moses. Let's move on. And they moved on. And look at it. In fact, my pastor would say those people graduated from my people. You know, God was calling them my people.
Yeah.
To your people.
So they became Moses.
people. Look at your people. You are here, they are playing. they say they don't want delay.
Yeah.
So in the end, people must be circumspect
Hmm.
about how they treat issues that people did not choose, that a
For-
woman did not choose for themselves. We must be circumspect. And it cuts across, not just for the issue of what we are talking about today, but generally. You don't make comments about things that people did not choose for themselves.
Indeed.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I want to add, I think the highest pressure comes from the woman herself. Expectation that, oh, when I get married, I will have a child. Expectation, because in different cultures we have, but I think as a woman, if you know that, oh, I want to wait or I want to do this and that, then you have a certain mindset that will help you deal with pressures from outside. If I know who I am, I know what I am here for, then no matter what others are saying, it cannot shake me.
Exactly.
But if I'm concerned myself already,
If you allow
Yeah.
yourself to be put under
pressure, I allow this thing to weigh me down
Mm.
to, oh, what's wrong with me? Am I really in the right place, or what's wrong with my husband? And then you start putting pressure on yourself, like, I need to go and do this checkup, and I need to do this treatment and start taking these medications. It can be of help if it's willingly, but if it's coming from you under pressure, it can instead lead to the stress.
Brilliant.
My
Fantastic.
mom, just again, my mom had to learn that the hard way. When I grew up and I was growing up. I'm left-handed in a society at the time where left-handedness was also
A stigma.
Yeah, stigma.
Let's
Just
take
like
this discussion back to the adoption thing.
that. No, I'm just trying
No,
to.
I'm just trying
that
to-
self-pressure.
Yeah.
That
okay.
self-pressure. She had self-pressure. And she tried to change me from.
Okay, from being a
Yes,
left-handed person
yes,
because
yes. She was bothered.
apparently from what people were
Yes,
telling
bothered.
her.
But over time, I think also for me, when I began to read up that it was not really.
It's
So
bad
I tried
thing.
to take that pressure off her.
Yeah.
That was
Oh.
yes.
Yeah.
Eventually, she became more accepting.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, God has rewarded me
Right.
with a left-handed daughter.
Yeah.
So,
But you
she's
write
not
with
going
your
to have
left
that.
and your right.
No, just my left.
Just
I
your
do
left.
other things with my
your
right,
right.
but my writing and other hard work. In
It's
fact,
so
like, yes, I used to say that my left
I
hand
used
is
to
doing the
admire
work,
people
but
who
my
do
right
that.
hand doing it.
Uh,
So
a lot of
like she said, when that pressure comes from within,
Yeah.
it's also very deadly.
So let's go back to the adoption thing.
Yeah.
We already have your take on
Mm.
the adoption,
Yeah.
and it's not a problem. So what would you say to people, to couples who are willing to go
And
adopt a child or two, but they are being held back because we really need to go now. They are being held back because of what would people say and this pressure from some members of the society, because
Yeah.
as it is, it's not everyone who would stigmatize people who have adopted children. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I would want to say that before adopting, you have to decide among yourself, like, what are we willing? Are we willing to adopt? You first look as a husband and wife, is this what we want? And then you find serious NGOs or if it's governmental bodies that can help you find a child to adopt. But I also want to say that there are so many children that are not necessarily orphans. They have somebody, maybe a grandmother or an auntie that is trying to raise them, but they don't have the means. So there are so many ways to be and have an impact in a child's life without necessarily being the one raising the child. And of course, we also do have orphans as well. So I think you just have to find where is my part, and what can I do to fulfill the calling that God has given me.
Brilliant. And that will take a lot of children off the streets.
Exactly.
A lot of
Indeed.
children that you see and say, this is
Orphan.
not do well
Mm.
and all of that. I think if they were raised by people who
Yeah.
took part in their lives, not necessarily their biological family members,
yes.
they would have turned out better
Yes.
Exactly.
persons. Austin, let's have
Totally agree with Miriam. There's a process, and I do believe that process should be strengthened over time by the relevant government departments or whatever. I work with lawyers all the time, so I know the importance of creating and strengthening the structures so that people who want, because again, the problem with adoption is not who is willing to adopt, but how easy, how seamless
Legalized.
is how is the process? Because again, we tend to put bottlenecks in everything we do here, so that things that are supposed to be simple, easy, are so difficult. So that people who want to adopt eventually give up. Government, the legislative arms who make these laws, I think there should be a reform of adoption laws so that couples who want to adopt can do so easily and in a timely way. Let me just say reiterate what I said before now. For those who still take it upon themselves to carry other people's burdens unsolicited, please do not make comments about what people did not choose for themselves. And again, I just want to call on the Nigerian legal community too, because there are practice areas in law that a lot of people are not looking at. Maybe this would be an opportunity to say to those lawyers who are interested in family issues, help us step up your advocacy in the area of adoption.
Thank you. Brilliant. Miriam.
Well, a last word I would like to say is that God knows the miracle you need. It might not be the miracle you expect.
Wow.
So trust in God and His timing. He will do it.
Hallelujah. All right. You've had it all. It's been an interesting edition of the program. Tango with Esther, with your queen of talk, Stella Eneyang. I've had a wonderful time with this awesome people in the persons of Austin Eyang and Miriam Wadiko. I hope you've had a great time as well. Will you be with us the next time we come your way? I hope you will. Spread the word. Don't forget to like our page. Don't forget to leave a comment. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave that comment down below. We'll be sure to respond as soon as we get the message. It's love from me to you. Bye for now.